Hi, welcome back. This is part, let me see, 5, I believe. No, I lost track. Anyway, for this one, we're going to look at adding another table, and we're actually going to set up a relationship between our new table, which is going to be for documenting and maintaining exercises that each of our fitness members do. So we'll create that table. We'll create a lookup table for the different exercises. And now we're going to link one of those two tables to the member list table so that it can keep track and we don't have to just keep, adding exercises to the member list format because the two just don't match, right? The member list form is for personal data. Our exercise table and forms are going to be for exercises. So here we go. We're going to start by creating a new table, and we'll go into table design. I think we'll start with our lookup table, our list of exercises. So we're going to label this LU underscore. I'm sorry. This is my field name. This is simple. We're going to start right out with an ID field. And we'll make this an auto number field. No, let's not. Let's change that to short text. And let's just change this to exercise. Because I want the exercise name to be my primary key, because I don't want people, entering push-ups into the list when we already have push-ups on the list. So we're actually gonna make this the exercise name the primary key. So we're not going to allow duplicates. All right, no duplicates. We can go to left align on this. It's really no big deal. I don't think we need 255 characters of space. I think 50 is plenty for any exercise that our folks will be doing. And then that's it. This is real simple. This is our lookup table. So we'll save this as, and this is where the lookup underscore exercise table, okay? The LU identifies it as a lookup table. That means that that's all it's used for. Kind of like this activity list. I said I was going to give it a new name. And all we're going to do with that is right-click, select rename, press the home key, and then add LU underscore. So again, this one is also identified as purely a lookup table. And it just keeps us from trying to figure out, which tables are for what. All right, so there is our exercise table. Now we need to create a form based on that table, because every table should have a form, if for no other reason, like I mentioned in the beginning, for updating purposes. So if we need to add or remove an exercise from the possibilities, then this is where we will do it. So with lookup exercise selected, we're going to go to the Create tab, and then we will select the Form Wizard. One field to add, real simple. Click Next. Since this is just going to be a straight up and down list, I don't see a need to make it anything fancy. I'm just going to go with a datasheet view. Select Next. We don't really need to modify anything as far as the form design goes. So we'll just click Finish. So there's our form, real simple. If we go to View, oops, sorry about that. Well, this is our table, and this is our form. So let me close this, and then we'll go to Preview. So there you go. It's just a simple form, and we'll enter our exercises. Push up, sit up, bench press, and this list can be however long. We'll just throw some basic stuff in here. I think biking. And that should do. That should do for right now. Okay. And again, we don't need to save adding records. Once you move from the last entry down to the blank entry, everything is saved, so we can close this. Now we need to create the actual exercise table, the one that's going to track and maintain the exercises that each of our individuals do. So for that, we'll go back to the Create tab, and we're going to go to Table Design. Our first field is going to be Member ID. This is going to be the field that's going to link it to our member list form. The member ID field is short text. Our next field will be the actual exercise that they do. I'll leave this as short text. We'll come down here and change our lookup from text box to combo box. Our source data is going to come from a table or a query, a table actually. So then we come down to our row source, and we're going to click this drop down, and we're going to get this information from our lookup exercise table. Okay, there's our combo box setup. And we'll go back to the general tab. We're going to make this, we don't need to make this a required field. If they come in to enter an exercise and don't put anything in there, well, then it's kind of their own fault. But we're not gonna make this required. But we will change the alignment to left, and we will change the field size to 50. Then we'll put an exercise date. And we're going to make that a date and time. Now there's a shortcut to changing the data type here in the design view. You'll notice that when I tabbed, and that's all I did, is I went from my exercise date, I tabbed over to the data type field. It highlights the data type. So if I want to change that data type, I simply type the first letter of the new data type I want. So date time starts with a D, so I press a D, and there you'll see it changes to date and time. Okay. You really don't need to change much on this. We can change the format if you like. I'm just going to double click in here a few times until I get short date. If you wanted to add an input mask, you could add an input mask. Not necessary because it's already going to be set up as a date field. We're going to add a caption because this is a 2-word field name. We're going to do the same thing up there with member ID as well. Exercise date. And if you want, you can go ahead and add a default of today's date in there. That way, if all they're doing is documenting the current day's exercises, they won't have to enter the date and time. So to enter the current date only, you remember that to enter the date and time, you did equals now, open and close parentheses. Here in Access, to document the current date only, you do an equals date and then an open and close parenthesis. Date and then open close parentheses. So you have the arguments area again, but no arguments for that area. We'll change the alignment to left, and then I'm going to come up here to member ID, and I forgot to add a caption, so I'll take care of that. Member ID, and we can change our field size to 7 because that's what it's set for on our member list table. Change the alignment again to left, and that should take care of our exercise table. Okay, we'll save this and we'll name it exercise. And we don't want a primary key for this because we don't want the member ID to be a primary key field because there's going to be more than one exercise that they're going to do. We don't want the exercise to be the primary key because they may do more than one of the same exercise, at least they should. And then we don't want the exercise date to be a primary key because they may do more than one exercise in the same day. So no primary key for this table. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add just an ID field, okay? You could add just an ID field, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you this. Add ID field, and we'll make that an auto number field. That way each exercise they do will be documented with its own unique ID, and that'll be simply an incremental number from whatever to whatever. And we can take that field and move it to the top. That way it shows up first in our table. And that should take care of everything we need for the exercise table. We will save this, close it, and now we're going to create a form for the exercise, right? We created a form for the lookup exercise. Now we need a form for the exercise table itself. So with the exercise table selected, click the Create tab, and then we're going to go to the Form Wizard. We're going to add all fields. We'll click the Next button, and I'll go with the justified format for this. Not that it's going to make a difference, because this is actually going to be a subform of the member list field when we're done with it. And the subform always comes in as a data list or a data sheet. So, but if we need to go in and make changes, then it's going to come up in the justified format. So we'll click Next. We'll take a look at the form design in case we need to make any changes. I don't think we will. That looks pretty good to me. There's our drop down. Let's see what it looks like in form view. There's our form view. We click the drop down. There's our list of exercises that we entered. There's our auto date. Works out very well. So now we're going to set up the relationship between our exercise table and our member list table. And that's real easy to do. It takes like 2 minutes. We're going to go to the Database Tools tab. We're going to click on Relationships, and you simply add all the tables that you want to create a relationship between. We want a relationship between exercise and member list. So we're going to add those two. I'm going to add member list first, just for general purposes, and then I'll add exercise, and then I'll close this dialog box. And the only reason I added member list first is because that's our primary field. Okay, that's our primary field. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to connect these two member ID fields. And to do that, all you do is click on the member ID field in your primary and drag it down and point to the field that you want to connect it to in your secondary table. And then it brings up the Edit Relationships dialog box. Double check, we're going to go from member list member ID to exercise member ID. That's good. And then there's just a few other things we need to do. We need to enforce referential integrity. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep people from accidentally deleting something from the member list field and not deleting it from the exercise field. So a couple things that go along with that enforce referential activity is cascade update. In other words, if we change this member ID, it's going to automatically change the member ID here. And then we're also going to do cascade delete related records. So if we delete a member out of the member list table, it's going to remove everything with that same member ID field in the exercise table. And that prevents from creating what's known as orphan records. You don't want records in the exercise table that don't belong to anything in the member list table. That's just a waste of space. So enforce referential activity, and then these are the two options you have for the referential integrity. You want to make sure that if we update something here, it updates it here. If we update it here, it updates it here. It goes back and forth. And then the same with the delete. So now we're going to click the Create button, and you'll see that it creates a one-to-many relationship. In other words, each member in our member list table can have many records in the exercise table. So I think that's where we're going to call this particular section quits. And when we come back, we'll take a look at modifying our form to accommodate this new table. So we're going to save this relationship, and then we'll close the relationship tools. And when we come back, modifying our member list form table. So with that, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.